Anyways, so it's starting to become evening. It's a little bit later in the day, and the disciples say, hey, listen, it's a little bit later in the day. We don't have much food. Let's just get rid of this crowd. Let's send them out so they can go to McDonald's and get some food. And Jesus said, what? He said, no, we have food. You feed them. What do you have? And the disciples said, well, I only have these 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. Anyways, so he said, give it to me. Jesus grabbed the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish and held it up and prayed over it. And then they started passing out the bread and the fish. And 5,000 men ate, and then it says, plus women and children. So it was actually the total number of people that were there were between 15 and 20,000 people. That's a big crowd that he fed with fish. Anyways, the fish at filet at McDonald's probably wouldn't say. Anyways. So it was right after this, Jesus dispersed the cloud, and it's getting a little late at night now. I don't know about what time it was, probably after the sun went down, around evening time. And he tells us, so let's back up again. Can we go back to that, Abby? Thank you. So he said, hey guys, get in the boat, go on the other side of the lake. I'm going to go up the mountain and pray, and I will catch up with you guys. Okay, so that's what they did. And he went up to the mountain to pray. And then here's where I bend over and say, all right, so a little bit later he comes on, there's a big storm. Okay, there's a big storm on the lake, and everything's all this windy and it's rainy. And anyways, you guys know that the disciples, just to lay this out a little bit, a lot of them were fishermen. So that should have been kind of in their wheelhouse, right? So they're on the lake and they say, hey, we're fishermen, we can handle this. But this is probably one of the biggest storms that they may have seen. So anyways, no, they can't. Jesus shows up, and in the midst of this storm, it says in the 4th watch of the night, which is around 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus shows up, and they're, as if it wasn't dangerous enough already, the storm was crazy, and they freaked out because they thought they saw a ghost. And in fact, it was Jesus, and he said, chillax, I told you already. Relax, guys, it's me. And then Peter gets up and he says, Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water. If you're a believer in Jesus, you will have storms in your life. Can we say that? Yeah, absolutely. The Christian life shouldn't be one that's a cakewalk. Okay? If we're going to walk through this thing called a life in Christ and a life through Christ, there needs to be storms, and there will be storms in our life. Okay? So this message is about trust. So I'm going to eventually get to who are we going to trust in? So what does Peter do when he's in the water? He says, Lord, tell me to come to you. So he does. And when Peter's looking and has his eyes focused on Jesus, everything's going well. He's walking on the water, and he's overtaking that storm as long as he's focusing on Christ. But the minute that he turns his eyes and he starts looking at the storm, the waves and the wind, well, now he starts to sink. Because now he's perhaps focusing on his circumstances. He's focusing on what's happening around him. He's not focusing on the Lord. So, trust in Jesus, not in your circumstances. Focus on him and not the storm that you're in. But depending on who or what you put your trust in, the storms of your life can either crush you or give you strength. So if you guys are relying on each other, or if you're relying on other people, or pastors, or you're relying on perhaps money, or whatever to get you through the situation that you're in, guess what? You're going to get crushed. Those waves are going to overtake you, and that storm is going to get the better of you. But if we focus on Christ, and we trust in him, then we can get through that storm. And not only that, it says that he'll strengthen us. Well, what I think is kind of cool, and even though the scripture doesn't say this, it says he reached down and grabbed him and helped pull him out of the water. And I do think it was his right hand that did that. And I don't want you guys to pull it. I'm just going to read this, but I'm going to flip over to Isaiah real quick. And I want to read, Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. Here's what it says. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isn't that great? Not only is He with us through the storm, but He's there to grab our hand, to walk through the storm with us and strengthen us. All right, so what is trust? Anybody? So I teach a lot. That's kind of actually what I do. I teach in the medical field. I teach CNA school. Some of you know that, it doesn't matter. But I don't have a chance really too often to preach. But I do like when people talk to me. And sometimes it throws me off and sometimes it doesn't. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, what is trust? Anybody, throw something at me. What is trust? What does it mean to trust? All right, I'll throw you a bone. To lean on? To rely on? To believe in? Yeah, absolutely. To have confidence in, absolutely. So to trust in something is to lean on, rely on, believe in, have confidence in. Excellent. So when we trust in people, how does that look? So I got Jeff. Jeff's a friend of mine. I'm usually pretending. And him and I have known each other for a while. We're BFFs, right? And his truck breaks down one day, and he comes up to me and says, "Hey, Jeff, since we're such good friends, can I borrow your truck?" Sure. So I'm going to give him a little bit of trust. There you go, Jeff. I'm going to give him a little bit of trust, and I'm going to say, "You know what? I trust you, Jeff. I love you. Me and you are BFFs. So just do me a favor, wash it, fill up with gas, and make sure, don't forget, it has a home." Okay? All right? But you see, that's not what's going to happen. Jeff's going to drive home, and he's going to get blindsided. He's going to get into a big accident. And then he's going to come to me at some point, and he's going to say, "Hey, Josh. I wrote your truck. Sorry." What? Wait, what? Didn't I trust you to take care of my truck? And you didn't. All right. So Cherie is I'm going to flip a little bit. Cherie is an electrician. And I call her up and I say, "Hey, Cherie, I need a little electrical work done. And I can't do it. I don't know what the heck. And I heard that you're kind of handy. So can you come over to my office and, fix the lights in my office? Is that okay? Is it okay if you do that for me? That'd be great."
It's a busy electrician.
You're busy. Must be another call. All right, so I show up the next day, and you call me up and say, "Hey, the work is done. It's perfect. It's great. Everything's fine." And I show up the next day in the office, and there's a fire in the office, and it burned the drapes down, and half of the wall was missing.
It wasn't me.
What happened?
I didn't report it wasn't me.
You didn't say that. No, I want my trust back. No, I don't trust you
I
anymore.
ordered house down.
Yeah. Yes, you did. It was your fault. I'm taking my trust back. How often is it that we put our trust in people, and why is it that we take our trust back? What happens? Anybody?
Mad, angry, hurt, feels
Yeah. Yeah, because something went wrong, right? Okay. What went wrong? What happened? How come a situation happened? And let's not fool ourselves. We're human, right? So we all make mistakes. Okay? Things happen. But still, listen, I'm going to give you some of my trust, and I expect things to work out a certain way. And if they don't, you can't be trusted. So I'm going to take my trust back. Right? And that sounds like the right thing. Okay? It's not. But that's just how we are as people. Okay? So what gets shaken with our trust? What gets shaken? Here's what gets shaken. We receive an undesired outcome. That's what changes. Okay? That's where our trust gets shaken. It's the outcome. It's like, I can trust you if you want to take my truck, that's fine. But I understand that you better put my truck back in my driveway. And you better fix the stinking lights, because, you're the electrician, Cherie. But that's not what happens. And it's...
We're down now.
Right, so let's say... Excuse me, I want to check on the light. I went over to her house the other night and did electrical work in her house, so I flipped the ties on. So we got an undesired outcome So that's what happened. That's why we remove our trust. So what's the difference? What's going on here is that they're not in control of the situation. They're not in control of what's happening. They're doing the best they can, and Jeff got sideswiped. It wasn't even his fault. Why should I take my trust back in him? It wasn't even anything to do. He was just in the right place at the right time. It had nothing to do with Sheree. She just left, and I don't know, a raccoon came in the building and started chewing the wires, and I don't know, it wasn't even her fault. But you were at the right place at the right time, and I got an undesired outcome, so you can't be trusted anymore. So why is it that we put our trust in people only to take it back later on because we don't get the desired or undesired outcome? And then we turn around and we do the same thing to God. God, my cat's sick. My cat, she's not doing well. Hard time. And I don't know what's going on. Can you heal her, please? I want her back, and I love her, and just here you go and take this, and right? Don't we do that? There's nothing wrong with that portion. Here's a portion that is wrong. Is that a couple days later, my cat dies. Why did my cat die? I prayed to you. I even went so far as to say, you know what? You heal my cat. I'm going to make sure I read my Bible every day, twice on Sunday. I'm going to make sure I give, and I'm just a better steward because you know what? Yeah, but you need to heal my cat, and you didn't do that. You don't trust that? God, I don't trust you because why? I got an undesired outcome. Okay, so that's how we treat God. We treat God the same way like we treat people. You see, the word doesn't say trust in people. It says trust in God. And that's a bit different. And that's where we have what's called, or what I like to call, unconditional trust. What's unconditional trust? Unconditional trust says this. Let me see. Within me. I'm going to trust you. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure. But you see, I'm going to trust you. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. But no matter what the outcome is going to be, I'm still going to trust you. I'm still going to love you. I'm going to put all my trust in you. That's how we're to treat God. Not to give him a little bit of trust, only to take it back later, because the outcome didn't turn out the same way that we wanted it. Right? But it's not about us. It should be about him. Because God's character is perfect. It's about his will, his way, his plans, not about ours. And there's sometimes where people don't even trust in God at all. And they say, you know what, I'm not going to trust in you, God. Because I don't know what's going to happen. Why would I even take the chance? I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe it's fear of loss of control. I don't know what's going to happen in this situation. So, sorry, I'm going to control it my own way. We need to have unconditional trust toward God. Proverbs chapter 3. Can you guys look at Proverbs chapter 3 for me? Or if not, it's up there. Proverbs chapter 3 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and mind and soul with strength, and lean not on your own understanding. You see, if we have unconditional trust, then we can do that first part. We can trust in the Lord with all our heart and all our soul and all our mind and all our strength. We can trust in him. Maybe we can't trust in people, but we can trust in God. And he's saying, trust in the Lord with all your heart. But the second part is lean not on your own understanding. Because that's unconditional trust. That's the understanding part, that outcome, that desired or undesired outcome, that punchline is, Lord, I don't know. And I don't know if my cat's going to get healed or not, or I don't know if she's going to die. You know, I don't know. But it doesn't matter. Your will be done. So I'm going to trust in you regardless of the outcome. Regardless of the outcome is unconditional trust. Are you guys with me? Okay. Am I making sense so far? All right. Unconditional trust. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. That's, when I was a kid, it was great because that was actually one of my favorite verses. And it wasn't until years later he actually made that alive to me in my life. And that's even more now my favorite verse. But there's a second half to that verse though. Could you flick on? In all your ways submit to him. It says in all your ways, not some of your ways, not in your understanding. It says even in your outcome, in all your ways. Submit to him, trust in him, love him, and what? He will make your paths straight. There's no reason, according to God's character, there is no reason that we shouldn't trust in him. Yes? And if we do, he will make our paths straight. And we may not understand it, but it's according to his will, his plan, his purposes, and not ours. Okay. I want to share some testimony with you guys. Is that okay? I had a dream, and it was actually in the spring of 2000. And there are many different ways. Let's just set this up like this. There's a lot of different ways that the Lord communicates with his people. Okay? He talks to them, speaks with them through the Holy Spirit. He can speak to your heart. He can speak to you through the Word. He can give you dreams. And one of the ways that he does communicate with me, and there's other ways, I can think of right now, but this particular way, this is how the Lord has chosen to communicate with me. I had a dream. I feel like Martin Luther King also. Okay, so let me lay this out, okay? And then I want to talk about some of the things that we've been through and how the Lord is, and what he's taught Bonnie and I about trusting in him. And after my dream, I'm going to start talking about our testimony. And please know that at some point, I am going to get emotional because this is tough for me. It really is. Because we've been through a lot for a good reason. And if I start to get a little emotional, it's okay. Okay? And if you do too, that's okay too. Whatever. I'm just going to continue. Just know that. Hopefully I'll keep myself together so I can finish. Okay? All right. So back in 2000, I had a dream. So here's my dream. Without further ado, I'm on a bike and I'm riding a bike. And I've got a friend in the back of me and we're just having a good old time and we're riding down the road, just like an old dream, no big deal. And all of a sudden, I veer off the road. And just like that, I'm off the road now. And now I'm in what looks like Africa. It's not Africa, but it's just the kind of, like the prairie lands or, I don't know, whatever, savanna. Okay, a savanna. There's a lot of body of waters just scattered all over the place, and there's tall, clumpy grass, and in some spots no grass, and it just looks really wild. And I'm riding my bike, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my shoe falls off on the ground. Whoa. I gotta stop. I need to go get my shoe, because I can't ride my bike without my shoes on, because that hurts. So, all of a sudden, next flash in the dream, just like that, I'm not on the bike anymore, not the savannah or the whatever, it had nothing to do with the next scene, just like that. And now I'm on the ground and there's this big tree next to me, huge tree. And I can see my shoe about 25 feet over there. And I'm like, oh cool, that's my shoe. That's why I'm here, so I need to go get it. So I step out from the shadow of the tree to go get my shoe and I notice something over here. And I notice it and I think, wait, really? Is that what I think it is? And all of a sudden, ghost white, I've never experienced so much fear in my life. I was so afraid. You guys ever have times in your life when you're so afraid you don't know what to do, but just stand there and you're absolutely paralyzed and you just start shaking, you can't control yourself because you're so afraid. Oh gosh, what's going to happen? That's because I saw something over there, and it was a lion. It wasn't just a normal-sized lion, he was big. He was on his fours and he was gnawing on something. And I got so afraid, I tucked down back behind the shadow of a tree, hoping he wouldn't see me. But too late, he did. He saw me. So he got up, neglecting whatever he was chewing on, and he decided that the next thing to chew on was me. So he was coming over this way, and he comes around the tree, and his head, he had a really big head, and I'm 6'1", and the top of his body was about 6.5 feet tall. And I know the Lord Lord gave this dream to me 17 years ago, but for some strange reason, and the very little times that I do have dreams every now and then, I usually don't remember when I wake up. But when the Lord gives me a dream, I remember every last little detail. Like it just happened last night. Anyway, so this lion that's coming over, I can't smell his breath or anything, but and he is, he's right there, his big old head, and he's coming around the side of me, and I am so afraid. I'm right up against this tree, and I'm scared, and I don't know what to do. I just feel a sense of everything. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hear this voice. It's the most powerful, most awesome voice that I ever heard. Yet at the same time, it was the most warming and comforting voice at the same time as the voice of the Lord. It's the first time I ever heard the voice of the Lord. And I heard it, and this is what he said to me. He said, "Rest in me." All right, what? Wait, what? What are you talking about? So he repeated. He said, "Rest in me." And I know there's very few times in Scripture where the Lord actually goes so far as to repeat himself. It's not very often. Here's one thing I know. If he ever repeats himself, you might want to listen. Because I think he means it. Anyway, so he said, "Rest in me, rest in me." And I'm sitting there like, what? Would you want me to sing a song? Or I don't even know, what do you want me to... What? So, without even thinking about it, I just started to lean back. And I leaned back, and I leaned back, and I leaned back, kind of slow motion. It was kind of weird, but I ended up falling asleep. I ended up taking a nap on the lion's head. And all of a sudden, forward flash. And then I wake up. I'm not awake from my dream. I just wake up, but I'm still dreaming, okay? And in my dream, I wake up, and I just lifted my head. I'm like, I should probably get out of here. So I'm looking around, I'm like, okay, let me just kind of scope out the territory, see what's going on. But now all of a sudden, there's all these other lions all over the place, probably 9, 10, 11 of them. Not as big as this one, but they're all around me. And I'm like, I didn't have that fear that I did before. It was replaced with something. Anyways, I get up, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get out of here. So I'm kind of tiptoeing around these lions, and they're all sleeping. I'm like, okay, I want to wake them up. But I get to the last lion, and the pathway that I chose to get out of there, there's one lion. And he's right there, and he's in my way, and there's nowhere else I can go without having to back up, and I didn't want to do that. Because I already got past 10 lines, so I got one more to go. And all of a sudden, at that moment, he woke up. He was the only one that did. He woke up, and he looked right at me. And then at that moment, I realized, I'm not afraid. As a matter of fact, I actually feel kind of courageous. You see, I put my trust in him. And because I put my trust in him, I can now rely on him. And because I can rely on him, well, he's got my back. So I'm thinking that no matter what, I'm going to get through this situation, and he's going to protect me, and he's going to guide me through it, and there's nothing that's going to happen to me. And sure enough, the same thought that I had, when I thought that, it's like the lion had the same thought. He looked at me and he goes, "Oh, crap." He now knows the truth. And he realized in that moment, there's nothing I can do. So he closed his eyes, put his head back down, and went back to sleep. And I stepped over him. And I got out of there, and it was the end of that dream. So what does that mean? I went 10 years, and every time that I had heard a pastor that I respected, and maybe they have the gift of interpretation. So, hey, listen, I got to tell you a dream. Have any idea what it means? And I went 10 long years, actually 11. And this is before I met Bonnie. This is before we had kids, and the Lord gives me this dream. So what does this mean? Can you do me a favor, Abby? Would you put that first picture up of Sammy? You guys know Sammy? Mm-hmm. My 12-year-old? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay. Well, in this picture, she's 4. Well, I think it was the date was 3, actually. When she went through what she went through, she was 4. But back in 2008, Bonnie and I had been married for about 4 years. Around there, 3 to 4 years. And we decided we were going to go to Bible school. We're going to go to seminary. So we did. We packed up our stuff, and we took off, and we went down to Dallas, Texas. And we went to seminary, we went to Bible school, we went to a place in Dallas, Texas called Christ for the Nations. And how they have it set up down there, it's a 2-year school. You can graduate and get your pastoral license in 2 years, or you can go to the 3rd year. The 3rd year. They specialize in worship, or preaching, or missionary work. And anyways, during that time, I was right at the end of the 2 years. I just hadn't quite graduated just yet. And then, anyways, you got to do this out. Okay, anyways, just around the 2nd year. So it was around 2010 in the spring, just before, a month or two before the end of the schooling, pretty much. And anyways, Sandy gets sick. No big deal. So we took her to the doctor, put her on some medication, and we're like, okay, doctor said, here, just try this medication, she'll be fine. Anything happens, bring her back. Well, nothing happened, actually. Nothing at all. She didn't get better, nothing changed at all. So like the medicine didn't affect her at all. All right, so let's go back. So we went back to the doctor, and he said, okay, maybe this medication just didn't work. Maybe she has a sensitivity or something with this medication. For some reason it didn't work, no big deal. Let's just go on this one instead. So we put her on this medication, and the same thing happened. She didn't get better. And so the 3rd time we bring her back to the doctor, we're like, you know what, maybe we just need to go see another doctor. And I believe the doctor did the same thing. That's, here, just try this medication, and something happens. Bring her back. But she wasn't getting better. And I remember one day, I had to go to work, okay? So, and I remember, she just had fever that wouldn't break, and she just wasn't looking good at all, and I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for a long time, and I've been in the medical ward for a long time, but I don't know what's going on with my daughter, and what is happening? She actually started to turn a little bit blue. Okay. So there's a thing called oxygen saturation. Let me be a little medical just for a second. You guys know what oxygen saturation is? Some of you do, some of you don't. I'll tell you. It's this little thing that they use to test how much oxygen is in your blood. If they can tell how much oxygen is in your blood, then they can tell if you're healthy and there's enough oxygen and you're doing right. Blah, blah, blah. You get it. Okay. So what's normal? 90% to 100 is normal. That's where all of us are right now. Okay? That's normal. If you're below 90%, then probably since this is wrong, there's probably not enough oxygen in your blood. We need to do something. Get you to the doctor, get you to the emergency room, give you some supplemental oxygen, something. But below 90, not good. Even for people that have like lung disease and that sort of stuff, the lowest they could probably ever be is like 88%. Anything lower than that, that's just not good. 80%, that's just horrible. We need to rush up to the hospital right away. So, anyways, Sammy's sick and she's turning blue, and I remember putting her in the bath that day because she just had a fever and it wouldn't break, and this whole time my heart's just breaking because here I am a nurse. What's wrong with my daughter? So, you know what, we just need to go. That's it. We're taking her to the hospital. So we threw her in the car, and I called out sick for work, and I'm like, listen, you guys are going to have to drop dead because I'm not coming into work because my daughter's about to. So, and I'm just really feeling like she was so sick at that point, I just really felt like there's no way that she was going to make it that night. That's how sick she was. I just didn't think that she was going to survive that one more night at home. And all she kept saying to me when I took her out of the tub was, I love you, Daddy. Over again. I just really felt like we needed to do something, so we brought her to the hospital. We got to the hospital, and before you know it, remember I talked about oxygen saturation. Well, hers was in the 60s. I've been in the medical world for 19 years. I've never even heard of something like that. I've never heard 70s, maybe. I've never heard of one that low in my life. This is my daughter. And before you know it, she got thrust into the emergency room, and they're stabbing her and taking blood and trying to put tubes in her and all this stuff. And we ended up realizing, wow, this girl really is really sick. We don't know what to do. We can't get her oxygen levels up. If you don't have a good oxygen levels, you can go 4 to 5 minutes before you have damage to tissues or organs or your brain or whatever doesn't receive enough oxygen. It could have been days. It could have been weeks. I don't know. All I know is she was really sick. You see, before you know, here we are in seminary, and we're going through Bible school, and all this stuff's going on, and life is great, and all of a sudden, our life gets turned upside down just like that. And she gets admitted into the Thank you. She gets admitted to the hospital. And this is the first couple of days. She was so sick. She had major complications with her heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, and spleen. She said she's so sick, there's no way that she can't even get enough oxygen. There must be some permanent damage with her heart and lungs. So much they put her into a coma. And then they put her in life support. The most advanced type of life support at the time, called ECMO. Yeah, stop right there for a second, please. So this is how sick she was. See this picture, guys? Okay, tell me if you ever heard of this, because I've never heard this before. See, this room that she's in, it was what's called a double occupancy room. That means typically you have 2 hospital beds in the room. Because she was so sick, they tossed one out of there because there was so much machinery keeping her alive. You could barely even walk in the room. That was from the doorway, by the way. And when we walked in every day to go see her and visit her, we had gown, gloves, booties, masks. We had to put this whole suit on just like to go see my daughter. 4 years old. There's a nurse in the back of the room, if you can see him all in between all those machines. See, normally in the hospital you have a nurse taking care of 3, 4, 5 patients, whatever, typically. She had 2 nurses assigned to her at all times. One could never leave the room. That's that guy in the back. If he had to go to the bathroom, he had to signal somehow and let another nurse come in and take his place just so he can go relieve himself. And then he can come back and gown completely back up again and go through that whole precautionary process just so he can come back in. He had two nurses at all times. I've never seen anything like that. Anyways. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So during the course of her being in the hospital, she had a couple major surgeries, about 3 or 4 major surgeries. And we were in the waiting room, I was, and you see, during this whole process, Sammy was in the hospital for 2 months, and during the course of the time that she was in the hospital, I didn't see Bonnie, because Jonathan was 1 1/2, and with him being 1 1/2, they wouldn't let him in the hospital. They wouldn't let him up to see her, because he's got a lot of germs and stuff going on, and they don't want to take a chance. What? Okay. Anyways. So they wouldn't let him in the hospital. So she would stay home with him, and I would stay in the hospital with Sammy one night, and then the very next day, she would drive with Jonathan in the back of the car up to the hospital, and I would come down as quick as I could so we can talk for 30 seconds, and then love you, give you a kiss, let you know what's going on, 30 seconds, and then I jump in the car and go home with Jonathan, and she goes upstairs. And that was our life for 2 months. Talk about totally flipped upside down. Anyways, there was one of the surgeries that the surgeon came into the waiting room where I was, and I hadn't eaten for a couple of days, 3, 4 days, because I was just so worried and so, And he says, hey, we're going to do a surgery, so anytime they do a major surgery, there's always a consent form that needs to be signed. And listen, I want to just let you know, I want you to sign this consent form so we can do the surgery, but I need to let you know the side effects. And the side effects is, if it doesn't go, and he used the word perfectly, really? Yeah, perfectly. She's going to stroke out, she'll bleed to death, she'll be a vegetable, it'll never be the same. I don't think I asked him what the odds were, because I didn't really care. And he's like, do you want to do the surgery or no? So, well, yeah. So, but I grabbed her hands and I said, anytime I sign that consent form, anytime there's a surgery, you surgeons, you get in here, we're going to pray. So I grabbed her hands and we would pray. And this one particular surgery, I remember, they had to put a catheter. It was a little bit bigger than the size of my thumb. Well, they had to put this big catheter in the side of her neck into a vein that was a little bit smaller than the size of my thumb. How do you even do that? So sign this consent form, so I did, and I'm just so upset because I don't know what to do. Here I am, a father of a 4-year-old girl who's fighting for her life. Our life just got flipped upside down, and I don't know what to do. I have never had so much fear in my life because there's nothing that I can do. I'm not eating, and food was the last thought that I had, and I'm sitting here in the waiting room doing this, and I'm just pacing back and forth during this surgery because I'm freaking out so much because I don't know what to do during the surgery if it doesn't go absolutely perfect. So I'm just waiting and intensively waiting in expectation to see what would be the outcome of the surgery. And I'm just beside myself. I don't know what to do. And this is what he said. Rest in me. Rest in me. And at the time, because I was so upset and so nervous and I was so anxious, I didn't connect that to the dream. I didn't put it together until later. So, and I think the reason why the Lord tells me things twice is because he knows I'm an idiot. And I'm like, Lord, what are you talking about? Don't you know what's going on? My daughter's in surgery right now. How can I just sit down? Are you serious? So I didn't know what else to do. I come to the end of myself. I don't know what else to do. So I sat down in a chair and I leaned back and I took a nap. In the middle of probably the most intense situation of my life as a father. And I believe that that was an act of submission to the Lord. In me saying, Lord, I give up. I don't understand what's going on here. I don't know. And furthermore, I don't know what's going to happen. But if you're going to tell me to trust you, you're going to tell me to put all my trust in you, then I'm going to have to unconditionally trust in you, regardless of the outcome, and I'm just going to have to submit myself to you and just let it go and close my eyes and rely on you and believe in you. See, during this time, Bonnie and I had come to this place where the phrase unconditional trust became even more real. And here it was. If she passed, if she died, if your 4-year-old daughter died, will you still serve me? And we had come to the place where we said, yeah, that'll be hard. That'll be hard. But I know that you have a purpose and you have a plan for our lives. And I don't know why that you would allow something like this to happen. But I'm going to trust in you anyways, because I can't do anything else. I have to trust in you, and whatever happens, it doesn't matter. I don't care about the outcome. I'm just going to trust in you, because whatever's going to happen is a whole lot better than having not trusted in you to begin with. So, do you trust in him during the storms of your life? Can you flip to the next slide, please? So this picture was Sammy, and you can see her most of her hair was gone at this point from chemotherapy, and she needed a lot of procedures done. A lot of procedures done for that 2 months that she was in the hospital. And we needed a way of getting her from point A to point B, and this hospital in Dallas was considerably big. So much that we feel like we needed a van inside the hospital just to bring her to point A to point B so she can have all these scans and tests and all this other stuff done. So we thought, how cool would it be if we just got like a little wagon and just loaded it with pillows and blankets and made her comfortable. Anytime she went anywhere, she had to put a mask on. That's what a mask is, that green thing on her blanket there. So that's what that is. And as a matter of fact, there was this organization during the time called Beads of Courage. You guys know that there's times in the Bible where the Lord says, pick up that stone and put it, and make a shrine. Well, he doesn't say shrine, but he says, put it there. Why does he say things like that? Why does he say, it's because of remembrance. He wants us to remember the times in our lives when he's delivered us and he's brought us through these tough times in our lives, because he wants us to know and remember that it had nothing to do with what I was going through. It had everything to do with the Lord and how he took care of that situation in our life. So this Beads of Courage, which I thought was kind of dumb when we first started it, ended up being one of the best things that just because we can remember a lot of things that we've been through. In Sammy, in her 3 to 4 major surgeries, and you guys know what blood transfusion is. You're low on blood, I'm low on blood, I'm about to die, I need some more blood, please somebody donate some blood here. So they get a unit of blood. Well, she had 44 of those. 44 blood transfusions. She actually wrote down a card some of the things that she had been through. You know, it doesn't matter at this point. She's been through a lot. Okay? As a matter of fact, Beads of Courage says, and by the way, when a couple days after going through all this, we realized that the oncologist came in and said, hey, we know that Sammy's sick, but we know what's wrong with her. Because for the first couple of days, they had no idea what was wrong with her. And they finally found out, and they came and sat us down, and they said, we want you guys to know that I know that she's sick, but we finally found out what's wrong with her. She has cancer. So, what do you want to do? Do you want to give her chemo? Because in order for her to get better, you see, she has to get even sicker. And we're like, what? She's so sick already. It wasn't day by day how her condition was. It was minute by minute. We can literally lose her any minute. It was like that for weeks. Anyways, Beads of Courage says, the organization says, anytime a kid with cancer goes through a procedure, they're given a bead. Okay. So one color means this, and another color means that, something else means that. And at some point while she was in the hospital, we were getting so many beads, the lady from the organization came up and she said, hey, listen, can we have one of these equal 10 procedures? Because if you get everything that you deserve, you're going to bankrupt this organization. See, at that time, she'd had like 700-800 beads that she owed, and that's what's in here. I actually counted them the other day. There's 816 beads in here. And at some point, I think, I don't remember, but some of these big ones, it's like that one for 10. Hey, can this just be like 10? Are you cool with that? I'm like, I don't mean to bankrupt you guys. I just want to remember. Okay? I remember all right. Here's my favorite one. And this actually wasn't because of a procedure. She was given this bead, like a little heart, as this is the day she was discharged from the hospital. That's my favorite. Anyways, she, when she got out of the hospital, her medical bill was $1.8 million. So we said, hey, could you send us an itemized bill? So they did. It was like 80-something pages.
I think it's their policy to do it.
All right, so check this out, right? We're talking about trust in the Lord, yeah? If you want to talk about trust in the Lord, here's one thing that's a really practical way of trusting in the Lord. Give. Tithe. If you really want to trust in the Lord, then you need to trust in the Lord. As a matter of fact, I think that's one of the only promises in the Bible related to giving. It says in Matthew chapter 3, it says, if you give, if you tithe, I will pour out a blessing so much you can't even contain it. She had a $1.8 million medical bill when we came out of the house. All right, we'll just throw $10 out a month. It'll take us about 4,000 years to pay it off. Medicaid, we had Medicaid at the time, and so they said, well, we'll take care of 2/3 of the bill. So we were blessed, right? We were left with we came home with just over $650,000 bill. So during the end of this time after she came home, it'd been about a year, and we were getting ready to leave and move out to California. And just before we left just before we left Texas to go to California, I said, hey, Bonnie, we better call the hospital because we need to know where our bill is, and we need to give them a forwarding address so we can find out what's going on, because we need to be responsible, even if it is going to take us 4,000 years to pay it off. So she did. She called the hospital, and she said, hey, we just want to know where Bill stands, because we have quite a considerable bill, and see, we're moving, so here's our forwarding address. And you know what she said? What bill? Everything had been paid off. If we are going to trust in Him, He's going to take us through every situation. As a matter of fact, even more than that, and we still to this day have no idea how that bill got paid off. No idea. And I don't care to. I do know who paid it out. As a matter of fact, during that time, I told you I quit my job. I wasn't working the same. I was in the hospital. I wasn't working at all. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I needed to be in the hospital. I needed to be with my family. And this is one of her therapy sessions. You can see the chemo, how it takes a toll on her body. See, during that time I wasn't working. We had more money in the bank. We had all our bills paid. And we don't know how. We had more money in the bank. I don't even know how it got there. Anyways, next picture, therapy. This was, I think Bonnie and I were kind of arguing a little bit. I'm like, no, this was the day we were discharged. And she thought it was maybe a day that she got a gift or something. Usually she's right, so. So this was Jonathan at, okay, I guess 2.5, but that's Sammy and her through what we were going through. When she came home out of the hospital, they thought I was a nurse. I didn't want to try to tell them, but they found out anyways. So she came home on 18 different medications. I had to stick her with IVs 3 or 4 times a day. I had to stick her with needles in the leg a couple times a day. It was crazy. Anyways.
I had to get a separate mini fridge just to cool my medication.
Yeah, I had to buy a separate refrigerator just for her medications. That was crazy. Listen, guys, all right. We all go through different storms and everybody's going through something, right? Here's what's important. A couple things. You know why this is important? Because when we're all going through the storms in our life, we need to help each other. We need to hold each other up. We need to encourage one another. That's what's important about this place. That's what's important about this church. It's not coming and listening to an idiot like me or a fabulous pastor. It's not coming and listen to the worship music. It's not. And I wish it was because, I'm usually part of it. It's not, okay? The purpose of church is to grow in the Lord. And what's the one way that we can grow in the Lord? One of the ways we can grow in the Lord. By encouraging one another. It's about telling each other stories. Yeah, this is what the Lord did in my life. What's the Lord doing in your life? That's what church is all about. I can't believe that we can't, or we're not willing, or whatever, to invite our friends to be a part of that. We need to work on that. Worship team, if you guys would come up. I'm going to wrap up in just a second, guys. So, listen, the purpose of this message isn't so I can have the mic for a few minutes and tell the story of how decimated one family can be. No, it's to tell a story of how good God is. And how even in the midst of such a storm, if we not look at the waves or the wind, but if we keep ourselves focused on Jesus and focused on Christ, and we rely on Him and trust in Him, then He will give us strength and pull us through that storm. Amen? Would you guys bow your heads and close your eyes for me? We're going to play a song, and I just want you guys to take a time to search your hearts and realize, I want you to recognize, what are the storms in your life right now? What are they? Is it job? Is it wife or husband or girlfriend or boyfriend or car or job? Everybody's got different storms. What's the storm that's going on in your life right now? And when you realize it, when you recognize what that storm is, who are you looking to? Are you looking to your pocket or your wallet? Are you looking to other people? Are you relying on Jesus? Are you relying on that Word of God?